I'm utterly horrified by the news I've just received. It appears my father has been involved in a long-term extramarital relationship, resulting in a child who is now 7 years old. My parents have been married for 3 decades, and it's difficult to comprehend how this situation could have gone on for so long without either of them speaking out. The child is located in a foreign, impoverished country, a 6-hour flight from our home. I'm at a loss for what to do in this situation. The entire ordeal feels like a crushing embarrassment, and I'm too ashamed to confide in my boyfriend or closest friends. The weight of this revelation is particularly painful for my mother, who has sacrificed her career ambitions to raise a family. She's a highly educated individual, having graduated from a reputable university, yet she's been relegated to a domestic role. I'm consumed by anger and resentment towards my father, whose actions have brought shame and hardship upon our family. AITA for peeing in the boyfriend's trash can? We recently got into a fight and he locked himself in the bathroom. He refused to unlock the door after I mentioned to him several times that I needed to use the bathroom. He lives in a studio apartment, so there was no other place. Am I the asshole for urinating in the boyfriend's trash can? A heated argument had escalated between my boyfriend and I. He had retreated to the bathroom, slamming the door shut behind him. Despite my repeated requests for him to let me use the bathroom, he refused to unlock the door, leaving me with no other viable option. The studio apartment offered no alternative solution, and I couldn't bear the thought of waiting any longer. As the tension reached a boiling point, I was forced to find a solution to my desperate situation. The boyfriend's trash can presented itself as an unexpected necessity. My urgency ultimately led to the unorthodox choice, but it was a decision born from desperation rather than malice. The boyfriend, however, reacted with outrage upon discovering my actions. He hurled insults, labeling me disgusting, before storming out of the apartment, leaving us in an uncomfortable silence. Edit. The physical strain had become unbearable. I was literally on the verge of losing control. I gave my friend grief because he asked our group to meet 30 minutes earlier than planned and then shows up 30 minutes late without a reason. My friends agree to meet at 10 a.m. to go for a group bike ride. This involves carpooling, so we can't start until everyone arrives. Our group had agreed to meet at 10 a.m. to embark on a group bike ride, with carpooling being a necessity since we wouldn't be able to begin until everyone was present. However, Andy suggested we start a half-hour earlier, at 9:30 a.m., which we all agreed to. As it turned out, our group arrived at 9:30 a.m. and were ready to begin, but Andy didn't show up until the scheduled time of 10 a.m., without any explanation. This was particularly frustrating given Andy's history of tardiness, but this instance seemed particularly inconsiderate. I expressed my disappointment to Andy, pointing out the inconsistency of agreeing to an earlier start time, only to then arrive late. Andy simply shrugged and remained silent, which only added to my frustration. I'm left wondering if I'm being unreasonable in my expectations of punctuality in a group setting. TLDR friend asks group to meet 30 minutes earlier, agrees, but shows up 30 minutes late. He's always late, and this instance seems particularly inconsiderate. AITA, edit. I should note that the group's bike ride plans often involve carpooling and coordinating with others, which makes punctuality crucial. Update. No one greeted me yet on my birthday. Not even my family and close friends. Yay, today is my birthday and I admit, I like getting the attention once in a year. I quit social media 10 months before, been on Reddit because I like the anonymity. I bought a Metallica ticket last year. As the day unfolded, I realized I was still waiting for the birthday greetings that I've grown accustomed to. My loved ones, it seemed, had forgotten this special occasion. It's my birthday, and I must confess, I have always enjoyed being the center of attention for at least one day a year. I made the decision to leave social media behind 10 months ago, opting instead for the anonymity of Reddit. A year prior, I had bought a ticket to see Metallica in Prague on June 22, 2022, as a belated birthday gift to myself. Unfortunately, visa restrictions made it impossible for me to attend. It appears my family had forgotten, and it seems my close friends had also overlooked this milestone. But at least putting my thoughts into words has helped me to acknowledge that I'm still here. AITAH for making eggs at 3 a.m.? I, M25, had to pull an all-nighter for an assignment and I got hungry, so I fried some eggs at 3 a.m. My roommate Jane, F22, is a light sleeper, so I did not make any loud noises, but she woke up to the sizzling noise of the frying pan. Jane got angry. Late night cooking conundrum. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I recently had to work on an assignment that required pulling an all-nighter. As I sat at my desk, my stomach began to growl, prompting me to whip up a quick snack. I decided to cook some eggs, but I was mindful of my roommate Jane's sleeping habits. Jane is a 22-year-old female who tends to be a light sleeper. Although I tried not to make too much noise, the sizzling sound of the frying pan still managed to disturb her sleep. Jane woke up, visibly annoyed, and requested that I remove the eggs from the pan due to the noise. Now, I'm questioning whether my actions were inconsiderate or if Jane is just overly sensitive to nighttime sounds. Perhaps she needs to consider investing in earplugs or a noise machine to block out any potential disturbances. So, was I the asshole for cooking eggs at 3 a.m.? Or is Jane being too sensitive about late-night noises? TLDR: 25-year-old male cooks eggs at 3 a.m. while working on an assignment, disturbing his light sleeping roommate. Is he inconsiderate or should Jane take steps to block out the noise? Edit: I'm pregnant. I'm 22 and I just found out I am 6 weeks pregnant. I got pregnant back in July and terminated the pregnancy at 5 weeks. Fuck, pregnant again and feel like shit about it happening again. Yes, I practice safe sex. A part of me wants to keep it, the other part. A new reality unfolds. I've recently received the news that I'm expecting a child, and it's left me reeling at just 22 years old. It turns out that I'm already 6 weeks along, a reality that's all too familiar for me. Back in July, I found myself in the same situation, and I made the difficult decision to terminate the pregnancy at 5 weeks. The weight of this news is crushing me. Despite taking precautions to avoid an unplanned pregnancy, I'm now facing the same dilemma once again. On one hand, there's a part of me that's drawn to the idea of carrying this child and giving them a home. On the other hand, I'm plagued by doubts about my ability to provide a stable and loving environment as a mother. Compounding these concerns is a more pressing issue: my struggle with drug addiction. Methamphetamine has become a destructive force in my life, and the thought of bringing a child into this chaotic world is nothing short of terrifying. My relationship with the father of this child is relatively new, having lasted only a year, but he's been fortunate enough to avoid the pitfalls of addiction. In this dark and uncertain moment, I'm at a loss for what to do. The uncertainty is such. I stole my Christmas tree. We went to Home Depot, because the local lots were sold out. Tent outside has a bunch of all trees. We picked out one in the $40 range, but there was no sales associate around. I bundled it up myself, rested it on the car, and went inside to find some. A Christmas tree heist. We made an ill-fated trip to Home Depot, given that all the local lots had been depleted. Outside, a large tent housed an assortment of trees, each vying for our attention. We selected one within the $40 price range, but unfortunately, no sales associate was nearby. I took matters into my own hands, securing the tree and leaning it against the car, before heading inside to locate a